Hello, kind people. This is Dmitry, and I'm going to record a recap video for the listener crossword that you can see on your screen. And I hope that this is going to be the first in a series of these recap videos. I have been doing them sporadically, and in the previous month of March, we had an absolutely great set of listener crosswords, and I recorded a recap video for 3 out of 4 of those. And since I started doing it on a semi-regular basis, and since the next crossword, the one in the first one of the April set, the one on your screens, was also very notable, I decided maybe I should just start recapping them, pretty much like 15 Squares blogs do it in writing, and I thought I might do a video version of this. So we'll see whether I manage to maintain it and do it for every week. I can't promise the numericals, but we'll see. Maybe if there is a good numerical, I can recap that as well. So let's talk about this one. It's by a setter called Apt, and it's called The Bank Job, and the title is going to be important, as is often the case with the listeners. However, for this one, maybe it's more important than usual. So let's read the preamble. The grid looks fairly normal, apart from the fact that typically, more often than not, you get 180-degree rotational symmetry. And here, as you can see, you get a mirror symmetry. So the grid could be reflected along this central vertical line. So the preamble goes as this. The grid's rows represent steps in completing a task. All crossing entries go in the thematically appropriate direction. And as you can see, the very first set of entries is called crossings, so rather than a cross. Although they are all crosses, as you'll see. In some of their clues, the wordplay leads to the answer with an extra letter that must be replaced by one of the thematic items to give the grid entry. The extra letters spell what the grid's axis of symmetry represents. So this mirror symmetry means something. Each across or down clue is really 2 clues side by side for symmetrically opposite answers in either order. After filling the grid, locate 2 symmetrically opposite columns for each item, and in each row without a crossing, highlight in a distinct color for each item the cell on the relevant side, forming a word related to the item. So let's talk about the end game when we get there. So as you can see, there are these 2 numbers 13, so there's 2 symmetric 13 down entries, and so the relevant clue, this has to be split in 2, and there's actually 2 clues side by side. So, now, as you can see, so the clues are split into these crossings, which also are numbered and go in the grid. And then, there is a smaller set of crosses, because some of the crosses are these crossings. And then there are some of the downs, and then there is this little set called items, which doesn't have number, and so seemingly does not go anywhere in the grid, and there are 3 of it. 3 of them. Now, this puzzle is a very rare case of a situation where the big discovery, so what solvers typically call penny drop moment, when you finally understand, what this is all about, and typically it happens, halfway through the solve when some hidden message starts to appear, and then suddenly you realize what this hidden message is. But for me, in this particular puzzle, this penny drop moment happened before the first clue was even solved. So if you look at the preamble again, so there are some crossings, and if you count the number of crossing clues, you can see there are 7 of them. And those crossings somehow involve 3 items, and the 3 items enumerations are 7, 4, and 4. And then there is something that the axis of symmetry represents. And then also the title for the whole thing is The Bank Job. And this being a cryptic crossword, it is rather unlikely that we're actually talking about robbing a bank here. And it's more likely that the word bank is used in a different meaning. And so think about it for a second and maybe pause the video if you like. But if some task which involves crossing something which has banks with 3 items comes to mind, that might be the correct guess. And especially if those 3 items of yours have 4 letters, and 7 letters in them. And maybe I was somewhat helped by the fact that if you actually translate those items into Russian, which is my native language, the enumerations actually stay the same. So in Russian they would be kapusta, koza, and volk, and in English they are cabbage, wolf, and goat. And in fact, I quite like the clue for cabbage, so maybe let's focus on that one. I'm going to present maybe a few individual clues. So I actually, it took me quite some time to parse it, but I think I like it a lot. So Charlotte here, I think, is an American city in North Carolina, whatever, that state. So it's not a lady called Charlotte, it's just an indication that it's an American word. And indeed, cabbage in American slang, as Chambers tells us, means paper money, notes. And so Charlotte's notes is cabbage. And now why there are 7 of them? Well, each letter in the word cabbage comes from a set of letters between A and G, and so from the set of musical notes. So there are 7 notes in the word cabbage. So now, equipped with this knowledge, you could maybe now understand what's going to happen. So the crossings, the rows with crossings, would be the rows of the solution of the wolf, cabbage, and goat problem. So as you might remember, you first cross with goat, and you leave wolf and cabbage on your... So here we're crossing from the left bank to the right bank, as we'll see. So we'll leave the a wolf with the cabbage, as it is safe, and then we return without anything. So this will be the first crossing, this will be the second crossing in the opposite direction, and so the answer to this 8th clue has to be returned and has to be written in the opposite direction. In fact, let's have a look at this. I believe the answer for that is or is it a knife board? I think it's something like knife board, which is a seating on public transport. And indeed, I think you get it by anagramming or preparing 4 banked and then inserting I in it. And since this is a crossing which doesn't carry any thematic item, and because you're returning empty-handed to the left bank, that clue does not have an extra letter in its wordplay, so the answer to this is knife board. And when you put it in the grid, you have to put it this way. In fact, I think the next simplest clue is for the other empty-handed crossing, which is this: urgent court order. If something is urgent, it's dire, and court abbreviates to CT, and if you order, you direct. And so that one has also to go backwards. And so we got some letters in the grid, and so on. Maybe I should have should look at some of those twin clues. Let's see if I can remember any of these. Let's have a look at this one. Risky setup for a trapeze artists group. So I believe this is not the first time I see this word clued like this, but the answer is no net, which is a group of 9, but also if there is no net, that is a risky setup for trapeze artists. And again, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. Sorry. Yeah, cryptics do not really teach non-native speakers how to pronounce words unless there are homophones involved. And so you have to split the clue here, and this becomes one word, and then the other is tend the chair hears intermittently. I guess it is, yeah, so you take odd letters of the words chair hears, and so you remove the even ones, and you get carer and carries, tender, someone who tends. So you have these two words, and then you have to put them in, so 17 across, so one of them goes here, and the other of them goes here, and you don't know which one goes which until you get to the, so you need corresponding down entries to help you with. But once you do all of this, you arrive at this following picture, which I think is beautiful. I think is extremely elegant visualization of the solution of wolf, goat, and cabbage problem. So this is what the solution looks like. So as you can see, you have 7 crossings here, and the very first crossing carries, and the way this is symbolized is that maybe it's not required in the solution, but maybe I should point that this is supposed to be a river, and so at the very beginning all 3 items are on the left bank, and so this is the first crossing, which carries a goat. This is the second, so this is the second direct crossing. This is the third crossing, and the corresponding word, which is the answer to the corresponding clue, carries wolf. Then we go back with the goat, and the word meander here carries the goat backwards. Then we go with the cabbage, then we return empty-handed, and finally we carry the goat. So the other bit of the end game is that the symmetric opposite columns have sort of placeholders for the items. So these 2 columns are for the wolf, and these 2 columns are for the goat, and these 2 are for the cabbage. And so in the beginning, they all are on the left side, and if you look at the correct placing of the item, so then we move the goat to the right, the goat stays there till the next crossing, then we carry the goat back, and then finally we carry it as the very last step. And if you read the corresponding cells, you get the words which describe the items. So the red set here, the wolf one, right, gives you coyote, which is a wolf, and then angora is a goat, and then for cabbage you get greens. So an extremely beautiful final grid where, I don't know, basically not a cell wasted, right? So each row is either the crossing or describes the state of the problem after that crossing. So I think, and yeah, the central 2 columns are for the river, and then just these columns are there to separate the items so that it's, the visualization is beautiful. So I think this is a very, very nice construction. I don't know how, in general, I'm going to, if I were to sort of judge the puzzles, there are several boxes that the great puzzle should tick for me, and this one ticks almost all of them, maybe apart from the one that I really like, when the puzzle tells me about certain facts that I didn't know before, right? I mean, the wolf, goat, and cabbage problem is not something that I had no idea before, and maybe this is the only thing that this puzzle is lacking. Otherwise, I think it is extremely beautiful construction. So I enjoyed it a lot, and also this is one of those very rare situations where it did happen before that, I guessed what the puzzle was going to be about before actually starting to solve it. And typically this ruins the experience completely. However, here I just thought it's such a nice execution of the theme that I still managed to enjoy it and actually enjoy it a lot. So yeah, many thanks Faft for this great puzzle, and we will be back next week with the review of whatever comes out in 2 days. I'm recording it on Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Bye.